Yes, we recording now.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much. All right, so just an intro to reporting. So for you to know what is a report or any type of report, it is an organized information and prepared on ad hoc or periodic or regular basis. Ad hoc is usually means like a special type of report that in a special time frame, and this may refer to specific projects or time frames. So that is a general type of a report. So it can be on finance, it can be operations, it can be anything. But when it comes to financial report, this is an organized financial information, generally refers to balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow statement, or regularly used for financial decision making. So you may hear these terms a lot from your finance people. So I'm not going to talk about like on the specific of these. I think that there is gonna be upcoming universities, and of course you're going to have synergy more with your finance people. So don't worry, I'm not gonna go through all of the specifics of this, but more on the general side. But why are we going to have to talk about reporting? So first thing, understanding reporting is for you to be able to easily. So financial reporting is where you can find the information that you would be able to immediately see. So that's why it would make a lot easier for you. Second is data-driven decisions. Without reports, without information, it's difficult for you to say that your decisions are driven. And third, you can only say you act sustainably if all finances are reported and know your current state. Lastly, proper financial data ensure that the next team will be informed. If you properly encode or record your financial accounting or your financial data, then it's going to be a lot easier to have a documentation that you can transfer for the next team. But let's do a short time from experience, because I think this would be a good place to share on what would be what to do when it comes to. So back then, so this is me when I was MCVP Finance. Legalities is back term 17. So I was actually selected early June 2016, which is less than a month before 16/7 term starts. Before I aimed for OD or operations role, but I was put to finance due to my studies. And before MC, at least the good thing is that I knew how to work with financial management and most processes out there. I already got internships from banks and already worked with accounting very well. And I had a background in certifications for finance. But when I came into the MC, almost nothing was in place. Data trackers are a mess, and there are a lack of reports, archives, and history. Essentially, I have to start from scratch to finance. So from there, I have to start from using my 0 years of business experience, because back then I was pretty much a fresh graduate from my university, and I have to apply to pretty much like try to fix everything. So it is quite a difficult task to handle, especially that you're like just 3 weeks before the MC term starts. There's pretty much still nothing prepared for you before, so it's quite difficult. Then I did some digging using my own skills, and that's when I pretty much discovered even more issues. I discovered that legal registration back then was not updated, which caused us more fees and requirements that could have been prevented. No accounting software was set or doesn't have consistent chart of accounts because it changed almost every term. I discovered financial transfer issues between Isaac International, ADB, and MC in terms of global IGT partnership. So this was back then. There are partnership issues with a global partner because it was like a very global partner. And then when I did auditing, I did internal auditing of financial transactions, which found where we found out huge debt of almost 10,000 Canadian dollars or 6,600 euros debt to Asia Pacific regional office, which for our size so it is a huge leap in terms of the amount that we need to cover. Like it may maybe for some entities that this amount is relative quite small compared to us, but relatively based on the size, it is actually quite big, or at least from back then. That story is not to say that an MC term is going to start really bad. I'm just sharing an experience that could happen to anyone, only because you don't have the financial information you needed. So that is just one of the experiences that I had before, where uh, where one of the things that I really need, which is the reports, which are the accounting, which are the financial information, is not available to me. And then when me as a person in the new team needs to really start working and try to digging things, it will take quite a long time for you to be able to really understand the entity further because you just don't have that information. And that is why reports is really important, not only just what you want to do in your term, but also for the next term, also for the next team. And with that, so assuming that we're going to have the reports already, I think you need to understand what will be the qualities of that you should be able to see in a report. First, the report should show accountability. It should show it should be accountable to provide timely information needed, accountable to their targets and budget lines, and alert to the financial situation. The reports should be able to show you that the information that can support you in terms of your operations. It reports should be able to support you in whatever areas that you need. Second is transparency, where it is clear from errors or mistakes, full and concrete. Ideally, your reports should always, other than just being on time and can support you, it should be able to support you in the most honest form. It should be clear from errors. Uh, it should always be as understandable and as perfect as it can be in terms of the data. Because if the data does have some errors, then it's gonna be difficult for you to rely on that information that the report is giving you. And third, you need efficiency, because where if you're going to create a report, it needs to be easy to create, like if you're going to use a tool or a system, and easy to read by anyone. Of course, like because if you want to report, you want that information, anyone, regard whether or not this person has a finance background or no finance background, this person would be able to easily understand the financial information that you can see. Now, financial data in Synergy is important when it comes to report. As mentioned, you want the reports to show accountability, transparency, and efficiency. But how can you actually use this in terms of the Synergy, which is pretty much the same way on how finance people should be able to synergize with different functions. When it comes to finance and synergizing with different areas, most of the time the information that you would talk to different areas is, for example, for finance, you have to talk for in terms of product fees, in terms of discounts, in terms of cases, ECB cases, ICB case, loss cases. Same goes with ICX. You have to talk about opportunity fees, accommodation fees, or other cases as well. BD, you have to go to sales, project management, youth speak, or PR, assuming you put them in BD function. Marketing, you will have to go to campaigns or digital platform. If you have, let's say, websites or use social media, marketing would also be a discussion there because there's a tendency to do investment cost. TM will also be a discussion with finance as well, such as for R&R and conference, because you want to be able to improve the members' performance, but you don't want to invest too much on it that it would look like, oh, you're not developing more interest in the membership. OD is more on coaching and visits as well, and MCP discussions with HR, administration, risk, and strategy. So these are just examples of how the reports can be used in different synergy. And of course, there are multiple things out there as well, different functions in different areas, but this is just more on the general type. Reports to stakeholders. So in the most simple nutshell, you can divide the stakeholders between two parts, internally and the plenary. So other than external stakeholders such as governments or uh, governments or your partners, those are types of external stakeholders. What I want you to focus more on as well is based on internal and plenary stakeholders. So internal stakeholders are more on reporting, where LCVP Finance reports to LCEB, LC reports to MC, meaning to you guys, and the MCVPF reports to MC team. The information can be on financial situation and budget execution. Plenary is more on reports from the management teams to the plenary, so meaning the LCs and the national plenary. So LCEB should be able to report to local plenary or local committee every quarter, because it is at least every quarter, because they don't need to know the information in every month's sake. It can be just more on every quarter as bulk report. Same goes with MC. You are liable to your national plenary, so you can report to national plenary every quarter. And for entity, so meaning MC and LCs, fill in the GFB survey with LC and MC data. So this is more on for us, for where you report to us to GFB, so that from GFB, we'll be able to learn the information that we will need from you. All right, so next part is talking about reports versions. So this one, there are multiple ways that you can gather information or understand different reports. And the next parts that I'm going to show you are different examples. Okay, I saw someone in the chat. Thank you. All right. So first part, to make it easier for you guys, I'm going to show you a short and easy monthly report. So if you want, you can do monthly reports in this type, an entity monthly report or MC report or LC report. So this type of report in here is more on just comparison of revenues and costs in terms of budget execution. So you can see, you can compare the total revenues and just the total cost in comparing budget and actual, and then the net profit. So this is just a simple income statement in terms of totals. So in this way, you can already see how are you guys getting your profit? Are you getting your profit because you reduce your cost, or because you have more revenues? Another type of report is exchange plan in budget. In this way, you can plan out your number of approvals, because, for example, like OGX, you usually get the money based on approvals. You can plan it out based on the budget and based on the actual. Are you be able to achieve your budgets, or uh, are you, are you still not achieving your budget? And another way as well is accounts receivable as tables. So there are different entities on how you guys track your LCs. And one of the things that for MC side, the way that you track your revenue stream from LCs is entity affiliation fees, or the fees that LCs pay to you, usually on a monthly or a quarterly basis. And you can do in this type of tables as well on doing accounts receivable on how long had your LC not paid yet your invoice. So you can say that this LC had not paid the MC after 31 to 60 days after the deadline. The other one is 61 to 90 days and 91 plus days, so that you can track different LCs based on who has been just a fresh entity that just been in debt, or which LC had already been in debt to you for quite a long time already. So the reports that I showed to you are usually the ones that within the MC are the ones that you and your VP Finance and the MC team would usually ask. So that's why I showed you the short reports. Next is going to intermediate term reports. So this is more on how can you do a report where you can see the overall picture of 1 year. So this screenshot is actually came from from the entity finance health dashboard. So this is a monthly financial performance analysis where you can compare total revenue and total cost, and then you can see the monthly profit loss and cumulative profit loss. So meaning you can do a monthly comparison on every single month side by side per total revenue and total cost, and you can view how your profit is actually growing or dropping. So just to take note, by the way, monthly is date of the month, cumulative is total amount since the term started or year to date. You might see the word cumulative quite a lot in terms of finance because that's the usual word that we use more. Year to date is more based on operations. So just a quick note from your side, year to date is the equivalent for cumulative and vice versa. So this is a good way to be able to view your financial performance, because you can see your total revenues and total costs side by side, and also the profit growth. Another version as well, this one, is monthly analysis for exchange and operations. This is also important for finance because you can see how your performance is doing this term, last term, and your plan for this term. So for example, the blue one is the achieved for 1920. So meaning how many approvals you are achieving this term so far. Red is approvals for 1920 plan. So meaning how many approvals did you actually plan for this term. And green is 1819 achieved. So how many did you achieve last term 1819? And this is one of the ways that you can compare it, and finance people can use this more because we want to know are we achieving our budget? Are we just doing better than last year, or Are we not doing better from last year? And also another way as well is monthly analysis for exchange in finance, where you can do a contribution direct contribution in different months of totals for exchange, so that you can do a total of a total breakdown of each type of revenue in just one bar. So in this way, you can pretty much just, this is a good way to see in terms of if you want the total of the revenue and then just see the breakdown. And in these different types of reports, or rather analysis, you can use this in pretty much in different functions. It's not only exchange. Like, let's say you can use this for BD, you can use this for conferences, you can use this for your overhead analysis as well. You can pretty much use these types of analysis in different areas and apply them as well. So what I just showed you is more on the type of different analysis that you can apply. All right. The next part I'm going to talk to you about is the Finance Health Dashboard. And in a few minutes, we're gonna go to working time. I'm going to show to you how you can use the dashboard, and I will have you guys use the dashboards as well. So first, why Finance Health Dashboard? The Finance Health Dashboard is essentially a reports on steroids. So GFB, AI, RO, and entities can use the dashboards to view detailed analysis of different functions and areas anytime. So when we wanted to support you guys even further, from GFB side, from AI side, from regional office side, we tend to go to look into the dashboards more, um, so that we can get more insights from there. So let's say from our side, in terms of the finance coaching that we do usually for MCVP finance, and we see that, oh, we need to know what's happening in terms of the exchange in this certain entity, we can just go to the dashboard and immediately look there. But in this session, I want you guys to see the dashboard as well, so that you can also use it, and you can take ideas from there that you can apply from your to your routine. So let's go to your entity to your entity dashboards. So the links are ice.x/gfb dashboard plus the 3-letter ISO code, or you can just look at this table so that you can find your links. Please take note that last week, or was it like 10 days ago, I shared to you the links already, the dashboards already. So your email, whatever the email that you put in the contacts list, is able to access your entity dashboards. So can you go to your entity dashboards, and then once you're in your entity dashboards, can you write in the chat that you already opened it? Mhm. So far, we had 15 people that already said that they are in their dashboard. Hmm. All right, amazing, cool. So I believe everyone already is in their dashboard. If not yet, just log into your dashboard, and then I'll just continue on. So in terms of the how to read the dashboard, so I will use one of the entity dashboards that we have. So I'm just going to show to you guys what I would usually see. So when you're going to open the dashboard, usually you would immediately see the intro page. So the intro page is more on the instructions or the guides that you can read through on how to use the dashboard. So um, hopefully this is one of actually the tasks before the FCP summit. You already looked into this. So yeah, so this is the intro, and the first thing you would actually go to is the overview tab. So in the overview tab, so the top part is pretty much the basic information that happened to the entity. So for example, like the finance standards achievement so far, the cumulative profit loss executed, so meaning how much profit or loss has been executed for this term 1920. 1920 budget achievement is how much you had achieved based in comparison to your budget so far. Um, Currency is in your local currency. So if you are depending on your entity, you would see your local currency, and then when this was last updated. So right now, this was last updated March 2020, because the April 2020 data is still in progress because that deadline is by this 18th. And then you would see different tables. So for example, you can see the entity, the standards, levels, and indicators. What are the presentations finance standards? You can see the financial indicators here with the comments. So these parts of the table is where you can see the results of different indicators such as sustainability levels, months of financial reserves for LCs, MC, and entity, financial indicators as well, and for liquidity and debt, core performance, and then the results. And then we have a table that is for the comments on what would be the equivalent comment based on the result that you receive. If you scroll further down below, you would see the profit loss of in different areas. So you can see profit loss in conferences, LCMC entity, and different products. So as mentioned, cumulative is basically year to date. So from if it says 1920 executed, it is cumulative from August 2019 until March. Same goes with cumulative 1920 budget, which is from August 2019 to March. Whole term 1920 budget is the whole term 12 months of 1920, so August until July 2020. The cumulative 1819 executed, this is starting from August 2018 until March 2019. So it is still the same number of months as the one in cumulative 1920, but just 1 year back. So you can see the number and the profits that you can compare in different columns here so that you can see, so that you can ask yourself, do you have the profit that is higher than what happened from last term? Do you have the profit that is higher than your budget or your whole term budget? And then there are comments that can support you in terms of those. And then at the side, you would have the top 7 issues that you can check out, where what are the top 7 issues that in this entity had. So we had a scoreboard like criteria on that calculates this. Don't worry, you don't need to look at that one. But based on the top 7 issues, there is another tab that says top 7 issues, which had the potential reasons why certain areas are an issue. So once you are in this top 7 issue, you can click different tabs. So for example, like you can choose the top 1 issue and then click the priority tab that can link you to another tab to show you more data in terms of that area. For example, I will just click this and this will show so that I can read more into the data here. At the side in pretty much in most tabs there is always this thing at the side, which are the descriptions, how to read, and guide questions or what to ask when I see this, so that if you're gonna look at the dashboard, you already have a guide for you to support you. Okay. So that's pretty much like the general way on how that you can look at it. You can click in different issues and different topics as well. You can also just go immediately to different tabs, if, whether or not they are part of the top 7 issues, that's fine. So what we're gonna do is we're going to make you practice to use this. Okay. Okay. By the way, in this output, I just put the instructions that I basically just told you, so that you can read the output and then just check the data that I mentioned. So just working time. So for your entity FHD, we will have a working time of 15 minutes. So in the first 3 minutes, go to your respective tribes. Nee, can you support me in terms of splitting the tribes? And then open your entity dashboards with your email already. Read the overview tab and read the top 7 issues tab. So in the first 3 minutes, we will do scanning, and then another slide we will do something else, and then I will just show to you the process.
Okay, so I will break everyone into your tribe. I'm gonna open the room now.
There's still
So
Myanmar and
why who are in Myanmar tribe look for, and then Pakistan is where look for also. Okay. So Ram, they are in tribe right now. You can. Do you want to come in to the group and talk with them?
I was thinking to talk to pretty much everyone.
So you can. I think. So if you want to talk something, you can text for me. I can copy paste, and then everyone gonna see it. They're gonna see the message. Yeah, but if I think you need to screenshot the picture and send in the MCB group.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wait, do I need to what? Screenshot?
Yep. This one, right? I can do screenshot.
Because the thing is there's gonna be different slides that I was going to point them at.
Okay, so I will screenshot for them. Check where's the where your slide? Okay. So you want me to screenshot which slide?
Sorry.
Because in you want me to send for them which slide?
Yeah. So in this one, you can send a screenshot of this slide.
51.
Yeah.
Okay. I will send now. But then you can only message for them. You cannot talk to them.
Okay. All right. Now I get it. Okay.
So
No, because I thought I
I
can
know
talk.
about this. Um, So do you need any message?
Um, a little bit once I go to here in the share 9 minutes.
Uh, or maybe you can go to every group. I can have you to, like, you can
Yeah,
jump on.
yeah. Can you add me to the MCP group?
Yeah, so how you can use it is I'm gonna assign you to one group, and then after finish talking, you can press leave, and when you come back here, I can assign to another group. Yeah, okay.
Ah, okay, all right. Yeah, yeah. I think okay, amazing. Cool. So, hope you guys had a fruitful conversation into your entity. So the next part, we'll go to your region. Um, so, oops. So the link of your region is ice.x/gfb dash AP. So you can copy this link here. So copy this link and just basically just type it in your browser so that you can go to your region. And then from there, just pretty much do the same thing that you did in your in terms of your entity. This is not but ask the questions. What is your general understanding of your region? And from one of the issues that you would find, oops, sorry, from one of the issues that you would find, what do you think are the reasons or bottlenecks why that result was shown? I noticed someone commented, if I'm correct. Oh, yeah, right. Thank you, Echo, for copying the link. All right. So I will just put this slide here so that you can look at Zoom anytime so that you can see the questions. But pretty much in terms of the regional finance hub dashboard for Asia Pacific, you can go to that, um, pretty much go to overview, then go to top 7 issues, and then you can check out any function or areas that you can think of, and then just click. And then within the next uh, within the next 4 minutes, so just check out the dashboards so that you can understand the region, and then the 3 minutes after that, I will ask you on these questions. Okay, I'm seeing comments, I'm seeing chats. Hi Ram, what is the difference between three different MOFR tables on the MOFR sheet? Hmm. Wait, let me check. MOFR. Three difference between the. It's pretty much just divided into MOFR of LCs. Oh, sorry. Okay, we got a question in the chat. Could you explain again the difference between total monthly profit and total cumulative profit? So total monthly profit is just the profit of that month. So let's say the profit for September, a monthly profit of September is just within September, or the monthly profit of October is just within October. But if you say cumulative profit of September or of October, then the total actually starts from August. So if it is cumulative profit of October, the profit, it starts from August profit until October. So far, is it clear? All right. All right. So it's already been 4 minutes. So if you guys have, like, let's say, answers to the questions that I'm showing to you, in the screen share, you can, if anyone would like to volunteer to answer any of the questions, which are, what is your general understanding of your region? And the second one is, from one of the issues, what do you think are the reasons or bottlenecks why that result was shown?
So I think, I mean, in terms of general understanding of your region, I think areas that we're doing well is the sustainability of the MCs, and most of our products are level 2 sustainability, which is a good thing. But in terms of our LC and entity overall, we are still a level 1 sustainability, and certain projects like IGV and IGE are a concern, considering that they're level 1 sustainability. So that's something that we will have to look into. In terms of the problem that I diagnosed was the first one, the LC profit and loss, and what I noticed was that, one second. Yeah, in terms of the budgeting, um, it's pretty much everywhere the place that have been budgeted, the executed has been way off. So I think one of the biggest problems there is that entities or LCs on ground, the finance VPs or the executive bodies don't really know, or not are not educated enough to how to make, in terms of how to make a proper budget, which is why the budget versus executed is way off. And I think that's a really big concern, and more education is required on ground to ensure that we are building the right financial competencies in LCs, and ensuring that we are building the right finance pipeline for not just LCs but MCs and AI as well, especially considering given the context where financial decisions are one of the major talking points, and one financial decision can like make or break an entity for years to come.
Mhm. All right. Thank you so much. Anyone else would like to share? All right, cool. Um, so thank you so much. So we can move to the last part of the session, which is debrief plus sharing. So so for this one, like, anyone pretty much can just answer any of the question. You can, um, ideally you can choose one question and then other people can answer the other question. So the questions are, first, in this session, which topic did you find most interesting so far? Second is, based on your entity FHD, what insights did you took from it? You can share on what do you think was happening for your in your entity that you can share to other people. Third, how about for AP? What insight can you share, that you can see from Asia Pacific? And fourth is, based on the things that you learned so far, what will you do next after this session?
Hello,
Hello, wait, who's speaking?
Ima.
Ima. Okay.
Okay. I think for me, I've always been curious as to how to read like reports in finance because I've been in the operation side ever since. And being in the MCP, I realized that it's very important to understand how it works overall. And so I really more or less learned a lot from this session. I guess based on the finance health board, personally in my entity, I realized a few things. So first is that our the top problem is really more into the conference profit, or I mean conference loss. And I guess it's really because we haven't really planned out well in terms of where we should get our finances, and in terms of maybe also our partnerships in terms of doing conferences. And I guess that's something that we can improve on in our term. I guess given that we're mostly doing virtual, maybe we can do something about it. And of course, maybe we won't be even experiencing any loss. And second is regarding core performance. Um, Based on the data that we have, only around 40% is our total core performance as an entity. And so this means that with the current scenario that we have, which is COVID-19, and with this situation wherein it affects definitely our exchange, given that majority of our finances or revenues doesn't really come from exchanges, maybe we can actually do something about it and utilize maybe non-exchange revenues like PR events or BD partnerships or something like that, so we can make our entity more sustainable, or at least we could survive this term. So yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you so much. Anyone else would like to answer any of the questions?
We can share.
Yep. All right, Cassie.
Okay. So actually, mostly the same with Ima. I don't speak the language. So with the language of finance, it's really hard, but it is really important to understand. Like for example, our major top issue is actually LC. Wait, I forgot. I think it is LC profit and loss, and then that is the same with the whole AP rations. Our main problem is the LC profit and loss. The main thing that, and that's also one of like the most interesting part for me, because I can see that the profit and loss in AP and Indonesia is the same. We face the stagnancies from March till now. I don't know, because the report is updated on March, but I can see the stagnancy starting from January and February. It means that we are trying to how do I say? Not we try to cut the cost in the LC level. Data shows that, but we cannot do that like all the time in the upcoming months. And then we have to try to finding new revenue streams or planning on how we can run the product as soon as possible, how we can recover from this pandemic. Because the budget for this term is actually almost the same with previous budget executed. So we couldn't really do the same thing like cost cutting right now only, but on how we can finding a new revenue stream in the upcoming stage. I mean, like for now on and 1 month or 2 months later, we still can, keep doing cost cutting and then minimize the expenses in the LC level. But for sure, there will be a succession as soon as possible in the LC level. It means we need more money to running the operations on how we can engage the member and also how we can provide practical experiences as soon as possible. So I think it's really important regarding the HR2, which is money involved so much in that. So I think that is like the main inferences that I got from my entity and also for the AP, especially LC level overall.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you so much, Cassie. Wait, let me check if there's anyone else who would like to share as well.
I can share something. It's another perspective. Like previously, when we checking about the finance data, we always check how much you earn, how much you cost, is there any lost. But actually, even you didn't lose money in the beginning, but the cost structure or the things showing that your finance is not that health. But people didn't pay attention. Like we only focus on the revenue and cost part. That's provide a very good tool for us to really keep in mind that it's not only about how much profit or how much loss you gain or you lose, but it's about whether you really have the health finance situation. Otherwise, even you didn't lose any money now, but in 2 or in 3 years you will start losing money, and you don't know like it start from when. But actually, if from now that you already take care of this health status, that it will make you like live a more sustainable way. Yeah.
Mhm. All right. Thank you so much, Echo. And maybe just one more person, if there's anyone else. If there's none,
I guess I can share. Um,
all right.
I think it's like a little bit of sidetrack and mostly for question 4. It's like, there's a tool which is amazing, which is available. It becomes even more of a responsibility to fill in your data and track it better. Because I feel like there is a mistake I could see for my own entity, and I'm not too sure if that is a common thing across. It's like when you can assess everything well, it's your job to actually fill in well so that you can get the most out of it. And I think I'm not too sure if there's a mistake, but it feels like a mistake very clearly. So yeah, I'll just go and double check that. That's
Mhm.
all. And thank you for making this tracker.
Thank you so much. All right, amazing. So I guess that in terms of the sharing time or the sharing spaces that we had is very fruitful. I hope you guys really learned a lot in terms of your entity, in terms of the region, and also learned as well from other MCPs. That is of course the main objective for this one, is for you to essentially learn the different information as well. So, oops. All right, yeah. So that's pretty much the last part of this session. So again, thank you so much. Just a quick update. The next session is actually 15 minutes from now, which is gonna be also another thing with finance, which is not from me, but another person who's doing finance. Ni, are you here? Ni,
Hi.
APRO. Do you
Okay.
have any announcements?
Not yet. So, everyone, you're gonna have a break. But then the next session gonna happen in 15 minutes. So, just take a short break and then see you here, in 15 minutes. Very on time. Okay.
All
That's
right.
all. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Ram.
So I think we can already start now. Well, we can start in 2 minutes. We still have 2 minutes, and then we can start just in time.
It's recording.
It's recording already?
Oh yeah.
Okay, okay. Does that mean we should start now, or?
It's fine. It depends on you.
Okay, okay. I mean, let's just wait the 2 more minutes. Just exactly already 5 here. All right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the cost structure session. My name is Edu. So you might remember me as your global finance manager or as your fake PI as well, already living in my fake term. So what is this session going to be about? We're going to be talking about cost structures, which is in a way, so it's kind of like a continuation of the team selection session that we had back in IPM. So for those of you who were there, you probably remember that we had a session in IPM called Team Selection, which was together with me and Borges, where we were just seeing what are the financial implications and what are the let's say people implications of selecting your team or deciding on the structure. And now we're going to go a little bit more in detail in terms of how do we make sure that we work with the other variables that we have. So remember that we were working with known and unknown variables back then. So it's just going to be like a very brief explanation of what are the type of costs that we have in ISA, how do we track them, what routines do we use to track them, and what metrics as well are the ones that we use to effectively assess whether we're taking the right decisions or not when it comes to cost. Yeah, so so these are the objectives. So learn how to effectively assess and identify cost structures, review your cost structures knowledge, and understand the metrics for assessing cost. Cool. All right. So you guys probably remember this from IPM. So that we have one decision to make without any budget or without any plan, um, which is normally kind of like the struggle that we face at the beginning of the term. That it's a very important decision. Back then, the decision that we needed to make was that we needed to select team. Now you probably need to make other types of decisions. You probably need to make see not only what structure you're going to be having, but also maybe what kind of contracts you're going to be signing, what is going to be your room for investment. And most likely, you probably still don't have a budget. I mean, maybe some of you already have a budget, depending on when you legislated, but most of you probably still don't have a budget. And most likely, also, you don't have a plan, which is very normal because you still haven't gone through planning, right? So in that way, we still need to make decisions without having these two variables, right? And if you remember this also from IPM, so we were working with the known and unknown variables. So known unknown variables back then in February was budget, strategies, which again, strategies are also not there because they come with a plan. And then we had variable cost and variable incomes. If you remember, there was also a place in the tool to kind of like map out what are going to be our variable costs and variable incomes based on the amount of exchange that we're going to do. And also the things that already were known are salaries, priorities, fixed cost, and fixed incomes. And maybe some of these things are even different now, especially now because of the whole COVID-19 situation, which changed a lot of things, or is still changing a lot of things. Probably even salaries and priorities have changed. So we're also going to be reflecting upon them, not really reviewing. We don't have time to review all these things now in this session, but I mean, at least reflect upon them so you can take later some time to review them. And remember also that we were mapping what we know and what we don't know. So that's essentially what we were doing back then in IPM, if you remember. So we were not making a budget per se, but we're just simply mapping out what were the things that we know and the things that we don't know. All right, so who of you remember this? You don't need to go. I mean, if you we had a spreadsheet back then in IPM. It was this one, is.dc/draft budget. If you want, you can, and if you still have it, you can open the one that you had in IPM. If you don't have it because you were not in IPM or you don't remember what this spreadsheet is, then it's fine. It's anyway that with the spreadsheet is better because it can help you remember what you put in there. But if you don't have it, then it's fine. It's just going to be a reflection activity. So what we're going to be doing now, we're going to be going into groups of 3 people for 7 minutes. And the only thing that we're going to be discussing in these 7 minutes is what has changed since IPM. So what thing do you know now? So if you remember in this spreadsheet, in the is.dc/draft budget, we had a tab that it was called, I think it was called To Learn, something like that. It was the name of the tab. It was one of the main tabs where you were simply going to be having a list of all the things that you still needed to learn about your entity in terms of cost. So I'm very curious to see what has changed since IPM. And we're going to be discussing in groups of 3 simply that question, like since IPM, what has changed? What things do you need to cut cost on? What things are you more aware now that your entity is going to invest on or spend money on? So we're going to be discussing that again in the breakout rooms. Can anybody help? First of all, is it clear, the activity in the breakout rooms? It's just a simple reflection on what has changed since IPM. So if it's clear, just type yes in the group. If it's not clear, just type I need more information. Okay. Yes. Okay, perfect. Cool. So who is helping me here with the breakout rooms? Nis, you? Are you here?
Oh, I'm here. Okay, so I will move everyone to the breakout room. They're gonna be.
Yes, please. For 7 minutes.
Okay, everyone in breakout room now, I believe. Let me see who's missing. Blonde, you supposed to go to, hey, Blonde. Hi, Blonde. Okay,
Okay. Now everyone is in breakout rooms.
so
Cool.
do you want to move to the room or just stay here?
No, it's fine. I'll just stay here. I'll just wait for 7 minutes. How are you doing, Neil? How's RPM?
It's very hectic because we need to work and we need to interview and we need to do a lot of things at the same time. So
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. This is my third RPM, so I was doing Europe and MEA, and it's a lot of logistics. Seems like you would think that organizing this would be faster, but quite a lot of logistics, moving people around. And
how many other RPM?
sorry?
How many other RPM? Is it good?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a chance to like see most of the RPMs in the sense of like I was just delivering the 2 sessions that I had, so I couldn't attend any pre-meetings, because if I would attend all the pre-meetings and all the FASI meetings, that would be my whole week, right? But it was nice. People are participating a lot. People are liking the content, so people are interacting a lot with each other. So I think it's obviously I don't think it's as good as a physical RPM, but it's still very good. It's better than I expected.
I also see that in AB this year they also more interactive and open. Oh,
Yeah, they're chatting a lot.
Echo, she asked, what should we discuss in the group?
Ah, just simply what has changed since IPM in terms of their awareness of their cost structure, in terms of the things that they know that they're going to be spending money on. Like what are they more aware now, and what do they still need to learn about their entity in terms of their expenses?
Oh,
should I type it?
Yeah. Can you type for me so that I can send for all of them?
Okay.
But any thing that I don't understand.
There. Do you see it?
I see. So we have 5 more minutes.
Yeah, we should have 3 minutes, no? I put the timer as well. It says 3 minutes since we started. Where are you staying now, Ni? Are you in Vietnam?
No, I'm stuck in Manila right now. I cannot go back right now because they don't have any flight and the current flight already run out of slot. So, but then we need to leave the house before June because around June we need to give the house back to the owner. So basically, if
Okay.
I need to manage to go back soon, but basically I'm stuck here. Yeah.
Okay. Only you or the rest of the team as well?
So May is back. Tomorrow, Pila's gonna go back. So they're gonna be me and Gina and Isuru. But then
Okay.
Isuru also registered in the embassy. So, but then and Gina maybe she also gonna leave. So I'm very afraid I'm gonna be here alone because it's gonna be very terrible.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Where are you now?
I'm in Canada. Like, yeah, luckily I didn't get stuck anywhere traveling because I was supposed to be in Colombia when the whole thing started, but they canceled the conference in Colombia before I got to leave. So I've been pretty much here in Canada. It's been nice, just really cold.
Yeah, like how can you work when it's so cold?
I don't know. I just work, but it's still very cold. Like it's almost middle of May and we are 4 degrees now. It
Oh,
was snowing like last week still. That's typical Canadian weather.
snow in May. Wow.
Yeah, it's still in May. This is the craziest thing. But I think apparently the weather is gonna start to get warm next week. Already this weekend.
Mm, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
think
we should have 30 seconds.
okay. I will close them now, so they're gonna go back.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. They're gonna go back in 40 minutes. Uh, yeah, people is going back now.
Cool. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to our common room. So I would like to hear from your side, maybe one or two people who would like to share. Just simply, like again, it was just a reflection question. Like, what has changed since IPM? Like, what are you more aware now? What do you still need to learn in terms of the way that you, like, either your fixed costs, your confirmed revenues, uh, your exchange revenues, or costs? Like, what has changed, or what are you more aware of now? So feel free to type it in the chat box, or you can also unmute everything. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much for everyone, I think. So feel free to just unmute your microphone or just type in the chat box. Like, what are the things that you are still that you still need to learn? What are the things that are different now? So that things you still need to review. I would appreciate a more elaborate answer than everything.
uh, I can go first because I said everything.
Yeah.
So I think the
All
funny
right.
thing, like fun, sad. It's not funny actually. The sad thing, which is common in all of us, is that all of us are thinking of letting go of our office or house, wherever we work from. It's just like basically you're even cutting your fixed cost. Like the word itself is fixed, but it's come to a point in which you have to cut that as well. So yeah, like that was the one commonality. And other than that, obviously in terms of like no more confirm, like confirmed revenue was not there previously as well for the especially for my entity. But yeah, everything has just become like a cost cutting thing. Yeah, the projection for exchange for now. A good GCP from Philippines also was like different scenario budgeting as well, like good, bad, worse, and so on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I completely agree with you guys that in many things, if not everything, has changed for the next term, and especially when you see like all the fixed costs that we're either not going to be having or we're going to need to rethink, like cost structures that we probably cut as well. Maybe most of you are going to be having less people in your team, so it's definitely going to be a completely different year, and it hasn't even started yet. So I'm sure that still many more things are gonna change. Hopefully, still some things for the on the positive side as well. Okay, someone is typing here. Cicita is typing. Now only MC allowances, office costs, and legal costs are there. Cool. Does anyone else want to share before we move to the next part?
Yeah, I think I can share. So I
Yeah.
think after like when you're doing the selection, so I was given the task to make the budget for next time. So reviewing about like how much, because in Sri Lanka we are also facing a lot of finance issue. So based on that, like I had to cut off a lot of things. Then actually when so when I'm making what I go through is like only this major costs are from these MC allowances and also the MC house and office costs. So other than that, like most of the other costs, like other than this AIC, RO fee and all lawyer fees, like those are we can't change. Other than that, like all the other costs were cut off actually from in Sri Lanka budget. And so now reviewing about the MC office cost also, because like since we can't see much revenue coming in the recent times with this, so I think still reviewing about that. That's the
Right.
situation.
Cool. Thank you, Cicita. So yeah, it's really nice to hear from your side, from your experiences. So now we're going to be moving on to the next part, which is what are the type of costs that we normally have in ISEC. So normally in the GFB survey, as we have them, we normally have costs structured in this way, right? So this means that whatever type of cost you have fits within any of these six categories, right? So first we have exchange cost. We have a BD cost as well, project management, overhead cost, global affiliation fee, and miscellaneous. So obviously, whatever doesn't fit in the first five categories goes into the sixth one, right? So this is kind of like the way that we have this structured. So we're gonna go one by one, just to see, just for you to understand what are the type of costs that you have, how you normally change them, um, what are the characteristics of these types of costs. So first we start with exchange costs, which they're pretty much just defining our core business, right? So normally when you're thinking on your room for investment into our core business, then these are the type of costs, right? So for example, this is when you're investing maybe on IGV projects, maybe you're investing on marketing as well, maybe you're investing even in whatever infrastructure that would allow you to continue running an exchange product. This goes in here. Now, what is the characteristic of this type of cost? It's that this is the easiest one to track return of investment of. So when you're thinking about return of investment, the cool thing is that we have already been developing systems in ISEC for a long time where we're measuring our exchange, right? Like our platforms are already measuring our exchange. So it's quite easy for you to say, hey, I want to invest this amount of money into this exchange product. And let's say I'm going to invest this in November because I'm expecting to grow 20% in exchange in March, let's say. Those are assumptions, right? And you always need to work with assumptions when you're making investments, so that you're able to track them. Because if you don't create assumptions when you're not going to be able to track them, right? Because sometimes it, like, reality tends to be much more complicated than models and simplifications that we tend to make. So that's also why it's important that we choose one assumption. So let's say you say, okay, I'm spending money in November to grow 20% in approves in OGV, let's say, in March. Then you already know how you're going to be tracking that because you already have systems for tracking exchange. You already have systems for tracking your money. So it's very easy to know if that works or not. Another characteristic is that, which sometimes we tend to forget, salaries for MCVPs of a product tend to also go into the MCVP that is handling that product. So if you're having an MCVP OGV, that's a cost that you're having for exchange, right? Because that person is supposed to be bringing exchange numbers. So it should also go into the return of investment measure. Make sure to know that, because it applies for every product, but it also applies, for example, for BD. If you have an MCVP BD, that person is also your BD cost. And I mean, it sounds really cold way to say it, but that you're supposed to track also your return of investment on investing on that person, right? And then we can move to the next part, which is the BD cost. So this tends to be our highest return of investment category. So these are all costs related to investment of BD. These are sales meeting per diem. Per diem is like, no, it's the amount of money that you give to like your MCVP BD, or maybe even also other MCVPs when they're traveling for a sales meeting, for example, for their daily allowance of food, or for like whatever thing that they might need to sustain themselves while they're abroad. Traveling costs as well, maintaining business relationships. Now, why is this normally the one with the highest return of investment? Again, this is a trend. This doesn't mean that it applies with everything. Um, but this is normally the highest one because the costs tend to be very low for BD and the revenues tend to be very high. So this is also why we tend to have a higher return of investment. Now, what is another characteristic of BD cost is that there's a big time lag, especially if you don't have any BD in your entity. If you haven't, if you've never had any big partnerships, then probably when if you start investing now, or let's say when your term starts, if you start investing when your term starts, it's very likely that you will not see results in a few months, maybe even a whole year, right? So this is also why sometimes this account tends to be tricky, because it doesn't bring results immediately, but when it does, it really pays off. Um, then we have, okay, there you go. Project management cost. So this is a very interesting account. Project management cost is pretty much is the highest risk account. It has the highest turnover. So turnover means the amount of money that is circulating, let's say, in the project, and it has a lower profit margin. So what does this mean? So a characteristic of the project management cost is, let's say, a conference. A conference is a project management cost. Um, imagine that you have a conference that is costing you 30K. That's a very big conference, but it's costing you 30K. And then you are making 32K of revenues for that conference. So technically you're making a profit, but because of the amount of money that you're investing, it's a very big risk, because if that conference ends up not happening, or if you have an event, one of the examples that I always give for this is it happened in my local entity. We were having a very big event back then for Global Village. It was a very known event in the university. And it was costing, for an LC, it was costing us around 10,000 euros, the event, because we needed to reserve a space, we needed to have all security measures, we needed to get portable toilets because it was outside, we needed to get permits. So it was a very expensive event. And we were making quite some profit. So let's say it was costing 10K and we were making 13K revenues. What was the problem? The problem was that if it rained, because it was an event that it was outside, if it rained that day, we would lose a lot of money because we had all the investments and no people attending the event. And obviously this represents a very big risk. And it's very similar to many conferences as well. So you need to be very careful when you're investing on this type of projects to know what are the risks, what are the possibilities of this project not happening, and if it doesn't happen, how much money would you lose? This applies also to other type of events like USpeak Forum or any other logistical events that include revenue and expense account. Now, someone asked me in this same session in a different region, they asked me if GV projects, for example, go into this account. Not really, they're considered exchange costs. So I'm talking about all the other outside project management events that you might be having. Everything that has to do with exchange, directly to exchange, then it would go as an exchange cost. But consider that if it's a project and it's similar, it has similar characteristics, then you're having the same risk. So maybe for certain IGV projects, you're going to be having same stories. All right, Then we have the overhead cost. So this tends to be the account where we spend the most money on. So these are all the costs that cannot be allocated to a specific activity, but are necessary to run the organization. For example, the salaries for MCVP's back office or for MCP go here. Rent also goes here. Maybe you're paying for a flat, maybe you're paying office rent, maybe you're paying services as well, electricity, water, gas, whatever. All of these things go here. And it's very important to consider this cost because, especially when we're talking about return of investment, sometimes we tend to leave these costs out. In many of the overhead costs are indirect costs as well. So we tend to leave these costs out, and then we don't tend to assess properly the profitability of the organization. Cool. Then we have global affiliation fees. That's a very simple one to explain. So these are simply the fees that are paid to AI. So these are your membership fees. And if you're if you're having a cost structure in your entity and you're mirroring from LC to MC, this would be also the fees that LCs would pay to the MC, right? And then lastly, we have everything else, which is the miscellaneous cost. So everything that doesn't fit anywhere else goes here. Usually, there's always an explanation for why entities are having costs here. Sometimes, for example, some entities are paying a membership fee to another organization because of the structure they have. Sometimes it's just a completely different story. Like everyone has their own story for putting something here, but this is supposed to be the account or the cost that we're trying to avoid. Not because they're bad or anything, but if it's going to be a regular cost for you, then it probably shouldn't be a miscellaneous cost. You should put it somewhere else. You should have your cost structure already adapted to it. Why is this important for you to know as MCP? Because you're going to be tracking these costs. Not tracking them in the sense as your MCP finance will be tracking it, but you need to understand them, right? You need to understand what is your organization spending money on, so that you're able to adjust it and plan for it. All right, so how do we assess costs? Cool, so we have, I'm just gonna show you three main metrics to assess costs. They're very simple, and I'm sure that you probably have heard already of all of them. So the trick of knowing these next three metrics is not just knowing the formula, but knowing what to put in there, and especially making your MCVP finance accountable for these metrics as well. So first, we have percentage of executed costs. This is nothing more than plan versus achieve. If you look at this formula, this is executed cost means what did we achieve over budgeted cost, what do we plan times 100, so we can get a percentage, and that's what you get. So this metric should be the one that is the clearest for you, because we do the same with exchange. We also have plan versus achieve for exchange. Now, what is a characteristic of this metric? The lowest value that it can have is 0, but it can have an infinite high value, right? So if you were planning with $10 and you spent 1,000, then you're going to have a very high number there, right? And the idea is to always get this metric at 100%, but most importantly is to understand why this metric is at the state that it is. So for example, imagine again, it's November in your term, and you realize that you already have one account at 95%. So let's say that you already have your conferences account is already at 95%. So you've already spent 95% of your budget in November. So is that bad? Is that good? That is something that you need to decide, because it's based on your planning. So if you plan for this account to be at 95% by November, then it's fine. You're going on track. If you were planning to have it at 40%, 50% by November, then probably something went wrong. So these are the things that you need to be very aware when you are doing a budget review with your MCVP finance. Like why is a certain account at this percentage? And it's also important that the budget report includes this metric as well, so you're able to understand better the report. Then we have profit margin. So profit margin is incomes minus expenses over incomes. If you can find, if I can explain this metric to you with words, it would be how many dollars do we keep for every dollar that we make, or how many euros, or how many pesos, or how many whatever currency that you use, right? So this metric is helping us to see if a certain project or a certain activity is profitable. So what is the property of this metric? By definition, the highest number that it can have is 1 or 100%, which would mean, which also you don't want to have that. I mean, you don't want to have 100% on this, and or maybe you want to have it, but I don't think it's possible to have it because it essentially means that you are getting money for free without any investment, right? It means that you don't spend any money, or you don't spend any dollar for every dollar that you make. So let's say that imagine that you would, let's put the conference example. Imagine that you would be having a conference and you don't spend any money on it, but you receive all the money for it. So that would be a profit margin of 100%. But the lowest amount that it can have is minus infinite, right? So imagine again, you are receiving 10K for a conference and you are spending 100K. So you would have a negative profit margin because it means you're losing. If you have a negative profit margin, it means that you're losing money. So normally a 15% is considered a good margin, but again, don't take that as a rule necessarily because it really it varies a lot from the project that you're running. Remember that, for example, big conferences, or as I was mentioning, conferences tend to have a lower profit margin than IGT, let's say, or OGV. OGV actually has a much higher profit margin than IGV. It's just important that you keep this positive, that you keep this positive and that you understand why this metric is the way it is. And then we have the next metric, which is return of investment. So income minus expenses over expenses. Now, I'm going to go back into the previous slide so you can see what the difference is. So profit margin is income minus expenses over incomes, and return of investment is income minus expenses over expenses. So they're very similar metrics, but they're approaching sustainability from a different perspective. Profit margin is telling you how is your sustainability in terms of how much money you're keeping for every cent that you're making. But return of investment is telling you how much money are you receiving from any dollar that you spend. So it's kind of telling you how effective your expenses are. So characteristics of this metric, the lowest number that you can have is -1 or -100%, which essentially means that you lost all the money. So imagine that, again, let's do the same scenario for the conference. A -1 would be you didn't get any money, but you spent all the money. So that would be a -100%, right? And in terms of what from the upper side of this metric, it can go infinitely up. So you can also have a 1,000% return of investment, 1,000,000% return of investment. In products, we consider a 15 to 30% a good return of investment. And again, this is just like a kind of like a rule of thumb, but it doesn't need to be like this. It can be that your situation, as long as it's positive, is good. Okay, what is the tricky part of this? You can use this formula for everything, right? But if maybe you can already guess what is the tricky part of this formula, that it's not always obvious what to include as incomes and what to include as expenses for this formula. Mainly because of sometimes the return of investment does not happen there's a time lag between the time you're making the expense and the time that you're expecting the income. And this is also why, repeating what I was saying before, assumptions are super important. So again, imagine that you are making an investment and you want to know, and you're going to be tracking that return of investment on that. Then you need to make an assumption always. You need to literally write it down. What is going to be your assumption to see if this worked or not? So if you're investing in BD, imagine that you're going to be having, you never had an MCVP BD and now you're going to be having one. So then you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to spend a yearly salary of my MCVP BD. So let's say a yearly salary is 30K. So I'm gonna be spending 30K on this person that I never had before. But I'm expecting that the incomes of the organization are gonna be increasing in 2 years. So maybe in my year there will not be an increase in income from BD side, but maybe on the next year that's going to be there. Then that should be the way that you keep yourself accountable to it, right? But technically, you should report to your plenary, hey, in the second year, we already should increase by 200-300% or by 30-40K, let's say 50K, our BD revenues, so that we know that this worked or not. And then that's the way you track it. So this means that over a period of 2 years, you're supposed to be tracking if you're actually received that money. Again, I'm giving you a very extreme example because this is an example that you're tracking across terms, but this can also happen in a period of months, right? It can also happen when you're investing on marketing. Marketing is a very good example as well, because marketing, you tend to spend money before, and the revenues tend to come a little bit later. Cool. Then we go into the routines, and this is, I think you might have already seen this type of routines as well. So what do we expect to see on our weekly MCM in terms of cost? Simply just to keep on the loop on what activities are happening. You don't need to review budget accounts every single week. That would be exhausting, and I don't think that would be a very effective use of your time. But you can do it every month. So every month you have your Power Corner meeting. We're going to be having a session about Power Corner, by the way, after this. So you can review there in your Power Corner meeting, like how are you doing with BD revenues? How are you doing with BD costs? How are you doing financially? You also have your budget execution report, which is happening in your monthly review, where you're checking every account in the budget, how is it being executed. You also have the performance metrics, like the ones that I showed you, but there are more. You can also check on more of the metrics. We have just launched the Finance Academy this week. Anyone can take it, like from MCVP side, or even MCP if you want to understand more about from the finance side. And there in the sustainability part from the finance standards, you can see all the performance metrics that you can use to track the sustainability of the entity. Then you also have the budget replanning happening every quarter. Again, quarterly, it's a small replanning of the budget. So quarterly, you should already know what incomes you're not going to be getting on exchange, what projects were canceled, what projects came up. And then every half a year, you can replan major costs. So every half a year, you can really see if you need to cut maybe any of the fixed incomes, maybe changing your structure, that's one. Maybe changing the flat where you live, maybe changing the office. Those are the bigger decisions you can take during planning or replanning, right? This is kind of like the logic behind the routines. Okay, before we go into our second breakout space, I would like to ask you if you have any questions, if something is not clear about everything that we've seen so far. I'm very much open to answer whatever questions you may have. If there are no questions, you can just type on the chat box as well, or no questions, wave, or whatever.
I got one question. Can I ask?
Yeah, go.
So when it comes to budget variances, like what's the range that is okay to have?
Budget variance. Yeah, that's a very good question. Again, it really depends on two things. First of all, how far are you in the term? So one of the things that we're having as a finance standard is to have a budget structure that goes monthly, right? So this means that if you see that it's September, October, and you have an account that is already 100%, then you need to check why it's already at 100%. It really, I don't think that there's a rule as to what is a proper budget variance. I think that what you need to understand is what's going to happen with that account and how is that going to affect the total budget. Like, I would not like to give you a particular number. And actually, I think this is one of the trickiest things of being an MCVP finance, that you need to assess if your budget variance is like threatening enough or not threatening enough on a month-by-month basis, right? But yeah, I don't think there's a specific number. Cool. All right. Then, if there are no more questions, guys, we're going to be going into our next breakout room. Same thing. It's going to be random. It's going to be 7 minutes. Feel free to take a picture of the questions. They're already in the screen, so that you don't, so that it's you already know what to talk about in the groups. And it's essentially what costs you see changing, adjusted in your entity the most. If you already discussed that question before in the previous group, it's fine. You can skip it. The second one is, how will you make sure to track and keep yourself informed with your cost structurally and month by month? So structurally, it's meant like in terms of the decisions that you make now before your term starts, like in the team structures that you're going to be having. And lastly, which touch points will you be using to keep yourself informed? So just you can simply discuss these questions. We can go into the breakout rooms. Nick, can you help me again with the breakout rooms?
Okay. Open up.